Hello, everybody. I wanted to say thank you to all my subscribers and all my viewers, comments, and likes. I appreciate you all participating and giving me a little bit more traction. Really inspired me to make another video to better explain things that I've discovered. So, the topic of this video is original sin, and we will be getting to the bottom of it today. So, Adam and Eve are original parents. They were tending and protecting the garden, naming the animals, and having dominion over Earth. Adam was also given one negative command: not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These duties were to be carried out as a way to work it and keep it, and reflect a deeper spiritual role as God's representative. God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. The Hebrew word for keep, shamar, also implies guarding or protecting, suggesting a responsibility to maintain the environment. God brought the animals to Adam to see what he would name them. This act of naming was part of his role in organizing and having dominion over creation. Adam was given dominion over all creatures and the earth. Some interpretations view this as a spiritual and physical responsibility to manage and expand God's kingdom. Adam's primary and most crucial responsibility was to obey God's command not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This was an AI response to Adam's role in the garden, and I thought it was pretty thorough. I incorporate AI generated responses in this video, and I'm going to be clarifying them and correcting any misleading interpretation. Okay. Adam's role is clear. So now we're going to get on to how sin corrupted humanity. According to the Bible, sin entered the world through disobedience of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They disobeyed God's command not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This act is seen as introducing sin and death to all humanity. This event is often referred to as the original sin, and the consequence is that all people are born into a fallen state with a sinful nature, which is false, partially. For example, you give a baby a piece of steak, they're going to eat that whole portion. You give a baby broccoli or spinach, and they're like, ugh, that's gross. And then you have to tell them to eat their vegetables. This has been the case in Western culture since it began. Generational sin. God had instructed Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit from a specific tree. Okay. They were tempted by Satan to defy God's command, which led them to eating the fruit. This act of rebellion resulted in sin entering the world, leading to spiritual separation from God, death, and a sinful nature being passed down to all subsequent generations. My My opinion on this matter is pretty simple. Genetic signaling can generally only be impacted via on or off. There are people born with genetic signaling that has been turned off. However, if they were to correct for the sin that was given to them by their parents, then they could theoretically heal themselves with God's grace. And the separation from nature is a big separation from God, separation from nature, separation from life. You're not being separated from death, because in fact you're being introduced to death due to a sinful nature and being passed down, traditions, etc. Makes no sense. Let's read the verse, because I feel like AI is butchering it a little bit. I'll do the Berean because I feel like it's a little easier to understand. So we're going to do Genesis chapter 3, and we'll just go through the whole chapter. Sure, why not? Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" He's already using deceptive language, gaslighting. The woman answered the serpent, "We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God has said, 'You must not eat it or touch it, or you will die.'" "You will not surely die," the serpent told the woman. "For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eyes, and that it was desirable for obtaining wisdom, she took the fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Both of their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked. So they sewed together fig leaves and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the breeze of the day, and they hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called out to the man, "Where are you?" "I heard your voice in the garden," he replied, "and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." Adam replied. "Who told you that you were naked?" asked the Lord God. "Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" And the man answered, "The woman whom you gave me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" "The serpent deceived me," she replied, "and I ate." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and every beast of the field. On your belly will you go, and dust you will eat all the days of your life." Just remember that for when we get to the punishment. "And I will put disagreement between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." This really highlights to me how, irregardless of consuming a diet that is not intended for the human digestive system, will not hinder childbearing. "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. Her seed is her womb, and her life, her creation of new life. And your seed is what the plants grow out of. Well, some plants grow out of. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." I think this is an interesting representation of how humans have the capability to eradicate evil, but they can only do it by destroying the head of the snake. And the snake will strike his heel, because the only way that we could successfully strike the snake's head accurately, we'll have to have both feet on the ground and grounded in logic. To the woman he said, I will sharply increase your pain in childbirth. In pain you will bring forth children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. And to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat, cursed is the ground because of you. Through toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it will yield for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your bread until you return to the ground, because out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Adam named his wife Eve, because she would be the mother of all living. And the Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife, and he clothed them. Probably animal hides. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now, lest he reach out his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out man and stationed cherubim on the east side of the Garden of Eden, along with a whirling sword of flame to guard the way to the tree of life. So it's interesting. He cursed Adam in the same way that he cursed the serpent. Basically, death and destruction is coming for sin. He does a lot of metaphor here. God's task for Adam after the fall. After the fall, God's task for Adam included being banished, facing a life of hard work to survive, and the ultimate task of physical death and return to dust. God also removed their access to the tree of life, guarded by an angel. He was cursed with having to toil the ground to produce food, a stark contrast to tending the already fruitful garden. God's promise of death was fulfilled, meaning Adam would eventually die and return to the dust from which he was created. God expelled Adam and Eve from the garden and placed an angel to guard the path, preventing their return. Eve was also given a new task to experience pain in childbirth. So, before the first plant was ever consumed, childbirth likely would be a painless process. And the pain in childbirth was part of the punishment. Okay. So, Adam and Eve had their first 3 children. 2 of them, Cain and Abel. Abel was a keeper of the sheep, or a shepherd. Cain was the tiller of the ground, or a farmer. It is generally understood that they chose their professions, possibly following the general work of their father, Adam, who was tasked to till the ground after being expelled from the Garden of Eden. Traditional interpretations suggest Cain, the firstborn, took on his father's role as a farmer. While Abel became a shepherd, their roles likely reflected 2 common ways of life at that time. settled agriculture, and nomadic herding. The first division of labor ever in human history was a farmer and a shepherd. I just think it's interesting that Cain chose to be a farmer following the work of the father, Adam, who was tasked to till the ground. But what about tilling the ground suggests that you should consume the fruit is a little bit of a stretch. Cain, the firstborn, took on his father's role as a farmer. Farmer of what? While Abel became a shepherd. Well, where did he learn to take care of animals? Where did he learn his animal husbandry from? It says they chose their professions. Possibly, very bad wording, following the general work of their father. So if the general work of their father was to till the ground, and Cain interpreted that as being a farmer, then how is Abel influenced to become a shepherd by following the general work of their father, Adam, who was tasked to till the ground? He wasn't tasked to care for livestock. So that's a little interesting to me. Their roles likely reflected two common ways of life at that time: settled agriculture, or sinful living, and nomadic herding, or the way to salvation. So this made me think about the farmer descriptor there. Tending and eating are not opposites, allegedly. They are two types of actions related to care and consumption. Tending involves caring for, looking after, or nurturing something or someone. Tending a garden, tending to a patient. Eating involves consuming food, eating a meal. While they involve different activities and goals, they are not antonyms, allegedly. Actions often considered opposite of tending might involve neglect or destruction. While an opposite of eating in terms of action or result might relate to expelling or going without food, fasting. So, hold on. Rewind. While they involve different activities and goals, they are not antonyms. Actions often considered opposites of tending might involve neglect or destruction. Pause. So, eating something isn't destroying it. Eating something, whenever you eat something, your body doesn't destroy it and then use what it can out of it. That's not a metabolic process in any way. So they are antonyms if you consider eating to be destructive. And while an opposite of eating in terms of action or result might relate to expelling, which is what fasting does. It expels all of the unhealthy phospholipid attachments, and it also expels carbohydrate soluble digestion in the mitochondria, and instead of lipid soluble metabolism, which fasting actually increases because you're not consuming any carbohydrates or proteins. Your body is going to start burning fat sources, being that they provide the most calories per gram out of the 3 nutrients there. Interesting. Nurturing something or someone. This kind of gets to the point of my video. Say, for example, eating food, right? Food wasn't invented until about around the 1300s. So you're saying eating involves food, but food wasn't invented until about the 1300s. Meat. The term meat was used actually to replace food. Meat was the original food. In fact, back between 350 AD and 1250 AD, milk and dairy were considered white meat. Edible plants were considered green meat, and then animal proteins and fats were considered red meat. It wasn't really a delineation with that until around 1350 AD. But you can see there's just a bunch of contradictions here. AI is just like our pal Satan. He's going to tell you the truth and a lie in the same breath. And then without your connection to the Most High and the truth, your sinful nature is just going to keep on sinning. It's part of the satanic strategy for maintaining the dominion over us. Now we're going to get into some more botany, I guess, and just contradictory things. So here we're going to look at a food plant tree of life. My biggest complaint about this is a blog, so it's not really a good scientific citation, but I just like how it's very organized, and it just gets more complex. So this is kind of like a simplified version. But as you can see, everything has a common ancestor. According to evolutionary theory, everything has a common ancestor, right? So you're going to have all these different things having derived from a common ancestor. Here's an interesting separation, and I thought it was interesting to note that land plants are on the left, and then animals and fungi are on the same group, which, albeit, is only due to them sharing multicellular organelles, and that doesn't seem like a reason to group them together. But it's interesting, however, because you think about fungi and what their role is in a natural ecosystem is mushrooms absorb and break down inorganic compounds in the soil, leaving behind organic compounds in the soil. That's the role of the fungi in nature. That's what it does. It stores these inorganic compounds in its flesh or meat, and it expels or eliminates organic compounds as a byproduct of cleaning. It's a cleaner. It's an environmental cleaner. And then animals. Interesting that they put that there. I just don't understand. How are they related other than having complex cellular structures? It doesn't make sense. Animals also absorb inorganic compounds in some cases from their diet. And then they die, and then their dead remains nourish the soil. So they are eliminating inorganic compounds from their environment and dying, and then nourishing the soil. So eliminating inorganic, replacing it with organic. Interesting. Go down a little further, and like I said, it just gets a little more complex from here. So now you can kind of see all of these things. They all had a common ancestor: tomatoes, peach, poppy seed, wheat, avocado, star anise, pine, and fern. And my biggest complaint about this is that it's not in chronological order necessarily. It's more of an overview. And that was my only complaint about it. It's a little vague of an overview. Just getting over this topic, though, so you can understand better. I'm going to go on to these others. I'm going to skip the ones that I've already said. So black pepper, bay leaves, cinnamon, nutmeg, sassafras. Again, same common ancestor, right? These have all been selectively bred over time to breed favorable characteristics into the product they're trying to sell you. Go back down. As you can see, it just keeps on going. Rice, wild rice, corn, wheat, oat, barley, rye, sour gum, sugar cane, lemongrass, pineapple, coconut, date palm, oil palm, banana, ginger, cardamom, turmeric, vanilla, onion, shallot, chives, leek, garlic, asparagus, agave, yam, and avocado again, all coming from a common ancestor, single common ancestor. And all of these genetic variations were done through selective breeding. Now, selective breeding or cross-pollination was coined in 1300s. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. 1300, they coined cross-pollination. And then 1350, they coined food. And instead of saying meat as an edible human food, you would say food now as a edible substance. Somehow that incorporates all these things as edible. So spinach, quinoa, beet, chard, dragon fruit, pear, rhubarb, currant, poppy seed, wheat again, same ancestor. Cross-pollination, selective breeding, man-made. All of this is man-made. Back. Now we're getting to the more extensive list here. I'll try my best not to repeat myself and just focus on the new additions here, but this is just a little bit more in depth. And as you can see, common and single ancestor. Gee, I wonder what that is. Maybe you should look up asteroids and find out. The additions here: kiwi, cranberry, blueberry, wintergreen, tea, Brazil nut, elderberry, dill, chervil, parsley, coriander, carrot, parsnip, cumin, farro, chicory, sunflower, sunchoke, tarragon, lettuce, dandelion, yerba mate, coffee, eggplant, potato, it's a big one, bell pepper, cayenne, ground cherry, tomatillo, goji, sweet potato, basil, peppermint, rosemary, sage, chia, thyme, lavender, oregano, lemon balm, olive, sesame, common ancestor. all man-made through selective breeding and a long time of sinning or consuming this garbage to somehow gather sustenance, right? And it goes further. Yeah, it just keeps on going. Or no, that was the last one. Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah, man. It just keeps on going. Angiosperm diversity, food in the. Oh, here we go. Almond, hazelnut, walnut, cantaloupe, cucumber, watermelon, zucchini, summer squash, pumpkin, acorn squash, butternut squash, banana squash, plum, apricot, peach, cherry, almond, loquat, pear, apple, rose, strawberry, raspberry, blackberry, fig, mulberry, soybean, chickpea, lentil pea, peanut, carob, tamarind, cassava, flax, passion fruit, star fruit, grape. All from a common ancestor. All selectively bred and man-made. This is not naturally occurring stuff. Guava, pomegranate, durian, hibiscus, okra, chocolate, papaya, caper, wasabi, horseradish, radish, black mustard, mustard greens, canola, poison, broccoli, bok choy, tatsoi, turnip, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, collards, cauliflower, kale, broccoli, maple, kumquat, citron, bergamot, grapefruit, orange, lemon, tangerine, lime, cashew, pistachio, mango. Yeah, all man-made through selective breeding over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years of consuming the thing that got you expelled and trying to breed it in a way that you're getting what you want out of it. And what you want out of it isn't your connection to God, but it's your worshiping of false idols. I just wanted to show you those images. You can do your research on it in the future. But we're going to move on now to the biology of plants. Plants use inorganic phosphorus. Phosphorus is the main compound that I'm focused in at the moment, but there are multiple inorganic compounds that plants utilize that are found in the soil, which are dissolved in soil water. While organic phosphorus is abundant, interesting, that's false. Plants must rely on the inorganic form, which they absorb through their roots. Soil microbes and other factors such as soil pH play a crucial role in converting organic phosphorus into the inorganic form that plants can use. I'll repeat that. Soil microbes and other factors play a crucial role in converting. This is the ice in the drink. Converting organic phosphorus into the inorganic form in order for the plants to use it. So, to be more precise, yes, plants use inorganic phosphorus primarily based on how that was worded. They use it for everything from ATP synthesis to cell wall membranes to photosynthesis, everything. Phosphorus is an element of life in its organic form. In its inorganic form, it is an element of death. Phosphorus is the main chemical that is modified by scientists for pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. So instead of waiting for the microbes in the soil to convert organic phosphorus into the inorganic form that plants can use, just spray a bunch of inorganic phosphorus all over everything. It'll kill everything, and the plants will grow extra big, and we can sell them for more money. Sounds good. Yeah. Now we're going to harp on while organic phosphorus is abundant, and that's redundant. We're going to go to another question, see if Google will contradict themselves as they always do. The percentage of organic and inorganic phosphorus on Earth varies, with inorganic forms being the most abundant overall. Well, that's interesting. Back here, you're saying that organic is abundant, and now you're saying that inorganic is the most abundant. Oh, inorganic is the most abundant overall, while the distribution in soil is more balanced and depends on factors like organic matter. For example, in soils, organic phosphorus can range from as little as 3% in low organic soils, aka cover crops sprayed, synthetically grown, fertilized, pesticized, and herbicidized plant distribution, or plant agriculture, in other words. In low organic soils to 50% or more in high organic soils. So in high organic or optimal, it's 50%. 50% is still only half. So going back to the plants can use argument, if more than half of the phosphorus is organic and unable to be used by the plants, it'll hinder their growth. Is that optimal if that's what you're going to be eating? No. That's going to make you rely on inorganic methods of supplementation, which is basically modern plant agriculture. Earth's crust, where everything grows and lives. Phosphorus exists in the Earth's crust primarily more than 50% as inorganic phosphorus, phosphate rock, right? So another contradiction there. It's kind of stupid. Organic phosphorus is found in dead plant, animal residues, and microbial tissues. Its percentage is higher in soils with higher organic content, kind of like Brazil. That's why they don't really spray that much on crops in Brazil. Well, correction, they don't spray fertilizer on crops in Brazil, but they still spray herbicides and pesticides to keep foragers away from their crops and insects and the like. Inorganic comprises minerals like apatite, complexes with iron and aluminum, and clay particles. It can be more abundant in soils with less organic matter, like the rest of the world, or Egypt. Great example, because they were an agricultural staple of the world not so long ago, and now they're a desert, can't even support life. It's funny how that works. Inorganic compounds' effects on humans. Inorganic compounds have both essential and toxic effects on humans. Essential compounds like water, salts, acids, and bases are crucial for bodily functions, such as fluid balance, pH regulation, and nutrient transport. However, inorganic contaminants like inorganic compounds, lead, mercury, cadmium, and asbestos can be toxic. Or maybe they can't be toxic. That could be true too. The way that AI talks, it's like it's talking to an idiot. Leading to serious health issues like organ damage, cancer, and developmental problems depending on the substance and exposure level. Like spraying inorganic compounds on our crops and then eating them. Yeah, that makes sense. So, going over things. They put nitrates in there, but they left out phosphates. Like, there's no inorganic phosphates that kill you, even though we're using those inorganic phosphates to kill bugs and keep foragers away from crops. So, also, they're using inorganic phosphates to kill weeds, specific weeds, and invasive plant species from their crops as well. Interesting. Now, before I get to the takeaway, I'm going to go back to the Bible, because AI is just, you really need to have scientific discipline, or I call it truth discipline. Therefore, I am sending you, Matthew 23:34. Therefore, I am sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify. Others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. And so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. This particular verse really just ties in the bright end of the tunnel that we're all going for. So, upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel. What? No righteous Adam? No righteous Cain? No righteous Eve? Why was Abel righteous in that moment? This is something to think about. Whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Interesting. So, just digesting all this information, I believe there was something else here that I wanted to cite. Oh, right here, yeah. 1 John 3:12. Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did Cain slay him? Because his own deeds were evil, while those of his brother were righteous. And now this is the question that led me to this conclusion. I would love to talk about it with anybody, and we could get to the bottom of it together. But do not be like Cain. Do not be like the farmer who killed the shepherd. Do not be like the one who belonged to the evil one. Do not be. So, I drew a nice little picture here, just combining a lot of information we just went over. So, plants, grass, trees, all that rely on inorganic nutrients in the soil. Inorganic nutrients are defecated by living animals in their environment. These living animals are consuming the grasses that are growing from the inorganic nutrients. And that's the cycle, the circle. The complete circle all supports itself. Abel was a shepherd, and his offerings were accepted. He committed no sin, and he was deemed righteous. Cain, on the other side, was a farmer. His offerings were not accepted for some reason. We'll get to that. Committed the first murder ever. What a guy. And he was labeled wicked. If you watch my other video, I did a little diagram here explaining how the cycle, natural cycle of the elements in humanity was broken, which is what caused death and sin, right? Herbivorous animals' gastrointestinal capacity are capable of housing inorganic compound consuming bacteria. So the same bacteria that live in the soil also live in the gut of herbivorous animals. This is why in Leviticus, Moses gives clean and unclean animals to eat, because the animals act as a biological filter for the inorganic compounds from the things that they're eating. Only herbivores are capable of doing that. Plants use both inorganic and organic compounds without detriment to the plant. Inorganic and organic. Inorganic is, in other words, sin. So that's probably why his offerings weren't accepted, because they were growing out of primarily inorganic compounds and were becoming more and more toxic as they were bred selectively for certain traits. And realistically, all it was the elimination of fiber and the increase in sugar. That was the main purpose of continuing to breed plants. So favorable soil conditions house the same inorganic compound consuming bacteria. These bacteria eat the inorganic compounds, leaving organic compounds behind. This was the true importance of the year of Jubilee, allowing restoration of organic compounds for plants to utilize, and the forgiveness of debt, which is imaginary, just like poverty. It's all man-made, just like every single fruit you see at the store. Didn't exist back in the day. Did not exist. If you want to watch my other video, you might understand a little bit more in depth how the elements of humanity here were kind of taken, but this kind of goes over the whole dominion concept that I told you to remember. So, by following the natural order of how the elements should interact with each other, humans have extended their lives, eliminated diseases, healed their body from chronic diseases. And I feel like, in my opinion, this is why Abel's offerings were always accepted with high esteem. Offerings accepted because they were highly esteemed, because all of the inorganic compounds, or it had less inorganic compounds and more organic compounds, which would better supplicate our bodies, leading us closer to the spirit, and the spirit guiding our minds with the truth on how to nourish our bodies and then our spirits, and so on. The reason why the offerings of Cain were not accepted because of the inorganic compounds. These inorganic compounds create phospholipid attachments, actually, phospholipids make up almost every cell in your body to some degree. Urine, semen, tears, blood, bone, sinew, your joints, organs, organelles, mitochondrial function, etc. So this is the answer to original sin. Like it was said in the last there. From the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, the righteous blood will come. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. I'm gonna use this as my peace deuce apple juice moment. I hope everybody's having a great day. And it's just something to think about, pray about, fast over. Let the Spirit talk to you and show you the truth. See you later, guys. All of my content is for entertainment purposes only. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and want to see more. I hope your day is blessed. Stay healthy, friends.